This is Wellness Buds, and I'm your host, Stella Wingfield.
And I'm Laura.
Today's episode is inspired by the following quote. I have learned that as long as I hold fast to my beliefs and values and follow my own moral compass, then the only expectations I need to live up to are my own. Michelle Obama. I really like this quote because at the end of the day, as I'm pretty positive we said before, all your decisions are in fact yours. It's imperative to live your life based upon your core beliefs and values. We can discuss all the different impacts of meat on the body, and particularly this episode, red meats and processed meats. But if after hearing all of this you still want to eat it, that's obviously your call. I'm always about moderation. Do what you want to do. If you want to do more than that, that's fine too. But you just need to follow what you want to do. Live up to your own expectations. Live your life the way you want to. There's absolutely no judgment coming from us. It's just a personal choice. Do whatever you want to do because we're all individuals doing our own thing anyway. And at the end of the day, it's your call. We're just talking about the facts over here. Last week, we talked about the basics of protein, why it's so important for the body, and some of the roles it carries out within the body. We talked a bit about how proteins are digested and a bit about amino acids. If you haven't listened to part 1, I highly recommend it before diving into this episode, but I'll just start this episode by playing a tiny bit before where we left off last time so we can get us back into the groove and continuing on with our protein episode. Looking at your diet could be key. Are you getting enough amino acids and protein? Because, like I just said, if you're not, it will destroy your muscle protein. So, yeah. And then on the flip of that, if you're eating more protein than your body needs, your body will break down those extra amino acids and transform them into fat. So, if you had to guess what the heck I would say next, what would it be?
Moderation!
Yeah,
Like, meat moderation, though, gets a little more complicated, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, having sufficient protein is where I would say it's imperative to have the right balance, but meat moderation is definitely complicated and controversial.
Let's just hit the hot topic. When it comes to red meat, is moderation key? Because there's a lot of talks about how red meat is like the no-go zone of all the meats, and it's not great for you. But there's also ones that are like, in moderation, red meat isn't great. Like, don't eat a burger 3 meals a day. But they say one burger is whatever and fine and all these different ones. So where does it really land?
Yeah, well, I've heard so much misinformation throughout the years and misconceptions among people I know personally, which makes things not only confusing when there's so many different articles saying so many different things, also very conflicting about what I've learned in school, which highly contradicts some people close to me, what they think about red meat, which is why I was saying moms, no mom in particular. I'm not trying to call any mom out, but I know some people's moms are like, you need red meat to heal after like an injury or something. And it's like, well, okay.
Is this the like rub some dirt on it mom version?
Just eat red meat and you'll be fine. You just need that red meat. Yeah, and I think, yeah, we'll just dive in. I found some articles and studies quite interesting about the matter, so if there is any confusion about it, hopefully this will clear some things up. In 2015, the WHO, I think most people know that's the World Health Organization, but I'm just going to say it in case.
If you don't know after COVID, where were you?
Were you under a rock? No judgment, but okay. The WHO published a report concluding that red meat is, quote, probably carcinogenic to humans, end quote. Additionally, the WHO stated that processed meats, defined as meat that has been transformed through salting, curing, fermentation, smoking, or other processes to enhance flavor or improve preservation, is, quote, carcinogenic to humans, end quote. So no longer probably carcinogenic, but definitely carcinogenic. which means there is sufficient evidence that processed meat intake increases cancer risk.
Just because we need to hear it doesn't mean we want to hear it. But, lay off the bologna, lay off the hot dogs.
Oh, hot dogs, why? Why is that even still in production? Fuck.
Because we're American. But, the ones that hit hard, the bacon, the pepperoni. And, can we break down what smoked meat means? I know we can't, but, who? You mean, if I smoke it at my house, I make it carcinogenic? Or, if I let it get processed smoked? I need information.
Would you personally smoke meat if it was okay?
Traeger's. The meat eater knows, okay? Traeger's, girl. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've mainly made red meat on that, so it's really not helping my case here. But sometimes you just... Cheat days. Moderation.
Yes.
Less cheat days, but cheat days, okay?
Moderation. It's so important. It's not like no one should ever have pepperoni again in their whole life if they fucking want it. When I ate meat, pepperoni was one that I really liked.
When I was a teenager, I would straight eat bags of pepper.
Yeah. I'd snack on those bitches
and
too.
now I'm guaranteed gonna get cancer.
But you're not that teenager snacking on bags.
But the amount I've already consumed.
It'll be okay. But yeah, that is a really good question, though, about if you smoked it yourself, because I would imagine that it would be better. But I've also read, and I didn't even include it in this episode because there have been some talks about the temperature in which you cook the meat matters as well.
Do not shatter all of my meat eating in one 30-minute segment, please.
But I did read, and why I didn't include it was because it's so inconclusive, the higher temperature stuff. People just don't really know enough about it. So I'm I'm not going to touch on it. And I know now we're briefly touching on it, but don't worry about it. They don't know enough about it. So don't worry about it.
They clueless.
Yeah, but to reach those conclusions about the processed meat, the WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer working group looked at more than 800 studies assessing the impacts of red and processed meats on various different types of cancer. They found that each 50-gram portion of processed meat, which primarily includes pork or beef, consumed daily increases the risk of colorectal cancer by 18%. And that's just about one hot dog, a couple slices of cold cuts, or bacon daily. But if you're not eating it daily, it's okay. It's okay.
I had bacon for breakfast yesterday. But today I subbed avocado, so...
Nice.
Let the greens take my soul.
I have this meat substitute bacon that I have semi-regularly, so it's not like I don't have those cravings. I just, and I know it isn't as good, especially if you're used to it, the real thing, but for me not having it in so long, I'm this is pretty damn tasty. I don't know. But the WHO actually ranked and declared processed meat as a Class 1 carcinogen in 2015 based on all of this research, which I did not know that processed meat was declared a Class 1 carcinogen.
Me either. And it's
now you can't
I
unknow.
I want to know, but I don't want to know.
But the more you know. And the good thing, though, I guess, is that there isn't an exact amount deemed dangerous, quote unquote. The risks go up the more you eat it. So just keep that in mind. Just gotta keep it on the low.
Maybe this should also lead to the minor topic, because I get, not only are we literally talking about how you could increase your chances for cancer eating red meat, but the whole cow's poop is killing the planet. And I get it. We will not touch on that much. But the goal doesn't need to be everyone being vegetarian or vegan. But if everyone only had one meal with meat in it, or every other day a meal with meat in it, it'd be a very different place. And that is all I'll say. For your cancer and your planet.
There is more in this ep on that, so we will get there, I promise. But we have to go into these deep dives of studies first, just real quick. The following is an excerpt from an abstract published in 2016 on behalf of the Federal Commission for Nutrition. Recent evidence from large prospective U.S. and European cohort studies and from meta-analyses of epidemiological studies indicates that long-term consumption of increasing amounts of red meat, and particularly of processed meat, is associated with an increased risk of total mortality, aka death if anyone doesn't know, cardiovascular disease, colorectal cancer, and type 2 diabetes in both men and women. And I won't read all of this. The association persists after inclusion of confounding factors. We all know age, race. Okay, let's go. The association has not always been noted with red meat, and it has been absent with white meat. It is concluded that recommendations for the consumption of unprocessed red meat, and particularly of processed red meat, should be more restrictive than existing recommendations. End quote. They did note, though, that these restrictive recommendations should not be applied to subjects above 70, so I'm just going to say that, even though I'm not really sure if I have an audience above 70, but I'm just going to say it.
They're like, just send it, you're in the last stage.
Well, I think they can't really say you need to restrict your protein because older people need more protein, and they are like most at risk for developing a lot of complications for not getting enough protein. So I'm sure that like legally they're not allowed to say anything about it. If you're over 70, just eat all the meat, eat all the protein, you got it, you're good. You need it. But after these findings were published, an article came out in 2019 saying, it's okay to eat red meat. And that's like the quote of the article. It's okay to eat red meat, unquote. But Harvard published an article in 2020 examining the truth behind that article and countered with this statement. This new red meat and processed meat recommendation was based on flaw in methodology and misinterpretation of nutritional evidence, says Dr. Frank Hu, chair of the Department of Nutrition. The authors used a method often applied to randomized clinical trials for drugs and devices, which is typically not feasible in nutritional studies. So
shots were fired.
Yeah, well, can you imagine, though? You can imagine, because it happened. The WHO and this nutritional whatever that I just said released these things being like, yep, this indeed does cause cancer or is highly associated. Doesn't cause, because causation and association are not the same thing. I get it. But highly associated, and highly associated with a lot of other things. And then these motherfuckers are like, it's okay, actually. Like, it's confusing. It's already confusing enough.
Note why us common folk don't know.
Yeah. Well, when you're getting so many mixed messages and then people don't take the time to like look at the processes or even know the difference between like observational cohort studies or whatever the F this just said, randomized clinical trials. Like, I think most people don't know the difference, and this isn't the episode to go into it, but there are so many differences in the way that research is conducted. So if you don't know how to like look at these things critically, then you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's okay to eat red meat. I'm gonna keep going on with that.
That's us basic folk.
Okay, so the article basically just goes on to debunk all of those things. Basically, all the things that we just said. Like, yes, there's a clear link between high intake of red and processed meat and higher risk of all of those things: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, premature death. And the results of all those studies are highly consistent. And yeah, Dr. Who goes on to say that the word here is high consumption of these types of meat. High consumption. Dr. Who recommends no more than 2 to 3 servings of red meat or processed meat per week. He says to consider red meat a luxury, have it as a side instead of a main dish. And, you know, like you were just saying, if people just had it a little less, like that can definitely make an impact. So he did say, though, as far as processed meats, there isn't really a safe recommendation because there are so many additives in it. So it should be mostly avoided. Maybe if you are smoking yourself and you're not adding anything, maybe that's better. Someone let me know, because I'm so curious now.
What do you mean smoking meat yourself? Because kind of sound like you said smoking yourself.
Smoking meat yourself.
I'm not smoking my own self.
Well, are you though?
Not today.
You are smoking. But yeah, processed meats have a way higher association. We get it. The article goes on to say that you don't really need red meat at all, but, you know, some people argue it has high amounts of protein, along with other vitamins and minerals, but it's not like you can't get these essential nutrients elsewhere, so yeah, we'll just leave it at that. And though I am a vegetarian, I haven't really talked about it other than this episode. I'm technically pescatarian, but I've been this way for quite some time for so many different reasons. And I'm definitely not going to lecture about what anyone wants to eat. You know, like if you want to eat meat, perfectly fine. I am not a judgy person. Do what you want to do. But I just wanted to bring some of these things to the awareness of whoever may be listening. Maybe this is new information, maybe it's not, but after all the reading and seeing all the poor health outcome associations, it's just definitely something to think about. And everything I saw said people who currently have high red or processed meat intakes could benefit from making the switch to eating more white meats or fish. I could do an episode more on vegetarianism if people might be interested in that. But I think that a lot of people know that shifting to eating more plant-based foods has tons of health benefits if you do it right anyway. I know for a long time I was vegetarian, but not necessarily eating that well within those parameters. I was just like a poor kid who was on my own for the first time. And I ate a lot of potatoes and cereal, and I've heard the term junkatarian, which, like, true, you could totally be a vegetarian, but just eating Cheez-Its, Oreo, sugar, cereals, grits, white rice, white bread, or other foods that aren't nutrient dense. So, yeah.
My favorite one is pastatarian. Just saying, them vegetarians love them pastas.
Well, I get so annoyed when I go out to restaurants and I'm like, okay, my only option is pasta or a salad. Fun. That's so cool. I am not a pastatarian. We talked about this. Carbs are essential. I eat my carbs, and I do love pasta. I just don't want that to be my only option. And it's more of just a treat when I do that, but whatever. Moral of the story, you can switch to a more plant-based diet and get a lot of nutrients or not. It really depends how you're doing it. So eating whole grains, vegetables, proteins, and making that shift could be very beneficial for you personally. It also has positive environmental impacts, like we just kind of briefly touched on. If you are concerned about your consumption of red meat, try incorporating other types of protein into your diet. As Doctor Who says, treat red meat as a luxury item. And as a side sometimes, just keep processed meats to a minimum. And I know tons of meat eaters who love to do vegetarian days a couple times a week. So maybe that's something you could work on if you're interested in that. I think a lot of times people associate vegan or vegetarian meals as gross. But if you know what you're doing even a little, you can make some dank-ass food and you won't even miss the meat really. I will say you can ask my husband. When we met, he was a huge meat eater. He ate it every single day, loved it, and now we're living apart and he's still eating the way that we have been eating for years. So yeah, it's kind of really cool to see on my end because he was so heavily interested in meat, red meat especially, and he has minimal complaints eating this way. And when he has a craving, he goes and gets what he wants, and I'd say it's relatively infrequent. And I was talking to him on the phone yesterday about this episode, and I'm like, I can say this, right? You think this is accurate? I'm not overstating how you feel. And he was like, no, that is how I feel. I do rarely have it, but when I do want it, I go and get it. I'm like, perfect.
I feel like I just fill his meat eating needs every time y'all visit. He's like, but about this meat.
Yeah, I mean, if it's there, if we go out to eat, he's almost certainly going to get some meat option, but he doesn't cook it for himself, so it's, you know, and his complaint always is, why would I get a big slab of meat when I'm just one person? Why would I want to cook all of that for just me? So it doesn't even make sense. But he could, if he really wanted to, just have a bunch of portions left over. But hey, I'm all about it. I'm really happy and proud with how far he's come, because in the beginning of the switch, like, I was vegan when he met me, and then I started having meat again. Mainly, I just knew I wasn't getting all the nutrients I needed, so I made that switch back to eating meat. And then eventually I just knew I didn't want it. I've been on and off vegetarian since I was 17 or 18, so Yeah, maybe after 6 months to a year of having it again, I made the switch back. I just couldn't do it. And he mostly made the switch with me. So here we are 8 years later, and he's still doing pretty okay. So, and I feel like he was so resistant at first. So if he can do it, you can do it. I believe in everyone. But I will leave today's episode with a couple facts. Large studies by Harvard, AARP, and NIH found that people who ate the most red meat had an increased risk of dying prematurely, roughly 30 to 37% higher than those who ate little red meat. And that's about 2 servings daily of red meat versus 2 servings weekly. Studies have linked legume consumption to improved blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. Legumes are great for the planet in comparison to meat as well. Legumes require 6 gallons of water to produce a pound of legumes. How many times can I say legumes? Versus 520 gallons for chicken or 1,500 gallons for beef in the same quantity. So that is something to think about. And legumes are also pretty inexpensive, so that's cool. And if you don't want to cook them, I know there are tons that are already cooked. I know Trader Joe's has lentils pre-cooked already too, and that's a go-to for me. Love lentils. But yeah, if the world consumed 15% less meat, such as everyone doing Meatless Monday, it would have the same impact on greenhouse gas emissions as taking 240 million cars off the road each year.
That is an insane statistic.
Yeah, and this was obviously pre-pandemic talk because I don't really know where travel is right now or if we're back to normal levels or what, but yeah, insane. And how does Meatless Monday help? For every burger skipped, you can save enough energy to charge your phone for 4.5 years. For every burger skipped, you can save enough water to shower with for the next 2.5 months. For every burger skipped, you can save enough water to drink for the next 3 years. It's pretty crazy. I wish y'all could see Laura's face right now.
I wish there were words to help explain it.
I feel like the shower one, though, for only 2.5 months, I think that speaks to, like, we should take shorter showers.
Girl, have you seen how much hair is on my head? I cannot.
I know. I can't either. I try, but damn. And then some other impacts on energy and the earth. Livestock production creates more greenhouse gases than the entire transportation sector, all the cars, trucks, planes, and trains in the world. Livestock production uses 75% of the Earth's agricultural land. Producing 1/4 pound beef burger uses 425 gallons of water, enough to fill 10 bathtubs. Producing 1/4 pound beef burger uses up enough energy to power an iPhone 6 for 6 months. Skipping 1 serving of beef every Monday for a year saves the equivalent emissions to driving 348 miles in a car. So that is all from Meatless Monday. I put their link in the show notes, so that's very interesting if anyone's interested in reading more about Meatless Monday, which has been a term most people have probably heard. It's been an ongoing campaign.
I wish more restaurants would be like, guess what? We do extra vegetarian specials on Mondays.
We're not serving beef on Mondays. Or chicken.
Something.
But people would be way too up in arms about it. So it's kind of crazy.
I mean, you don't have to, like, not serve it, but you could offer more options and bring awareness.
Yeah, that would be great. And you would think places out here on the West Coast.
We're living in Oregon, for damn sake.
I know.
Hey, come on.
I don't really eat out that much to know if it is a thing. But I would think that you would think someone out there is trying to promote it. I mean, there's tons of...
The one already vegan restaurant.
Yeah. Well, luckily Portland has a ton of vegetarian and vegan options, but yeah. People would go crazy. I didn't include this in like the show notes or anything, but when I was reading, I found out that Australia eats more meat than America does. Not by a lot, but they're like the largest consumers of meat.
But like our population sizes, dog.
Yeah, but yeah, we're like very close second. I'm not sure exactly how close. It's very, very similar. So hopefully everyone learned a whole lot today because there's a lot of information in here.
It's a fat episode.
Product of the week. Product of the week. Product of the week. Product of the week. Pow! Since we are talking all about protein, this episode had me thinking about my workouts, and the one thing that really takes my workouts up to the next level is my booty bands. I get so much glute activation to get the most out of my glute day workouts. I use them pretty much every leg day and activate the glutes before leg day so that I feel it extra in the booty. I think you know, Laura, that's always been my goal, is to grow my booty as big as possible.
All about that butt.
Josh is an ass man, so it never really occurred to me that I should be working more on my glutes until I met him. But ever since meeting him, it's been a top priority to get a fat ass, so...
That booty already thick, girl.
It's way thicker than when we met, though. For real. I do think that the booty bands helped with it so much. I saw so much more growth from using the bands than I did before, and I was doing similar workouts, but the activation is so key. And yeah, I remember taking you to the gym and using them too, and you could definitely feel that.
Yeah, you can. We use them at Orange Theory when I do the lift classes that are just slower body.
Yeah, I love them. It burns like a mother, so you know that it's working. It adds tension to increase intensity of everyday workouts at home or at the gym. And yeah, just really helps grow the booty. Squat holds or just squats, just like pushing. Basically, to get the most out of the booty band, you have to be like constantly pushing outward with your knees. But leg lifts, donkey kicks, whatever. Also, in a weird way, whenever I'm wearing it, they're so bright and colorful that it just makes me feel extra cute when I'm working out. Which I know probably sounds so silly.
The best workout accessory.
Yeah, because they're just so cute, like pastel-y colored. And they always make my outfit look that much cuter. When I was at the gym working out with them, I would take them with me and back. But then when I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, I'm like, dang, this teal booty band, it looked cute with this outfit. Or this pink one, yeah, I'm looking good over here. And I don't know, it might be silly for some people, but I feel like when I look cute, even if I'm just at my house, it inspires me to want to work out harder for some reason. I don't know, but the booty bands are it, y'all. So I'll link them below. Thank you so much for listening and nerding out with us during this month's theme of how certain things we consume impact our body and health, and why these items are so imperative for proper body functions. And in this episode's case, some environmental impacts as well. Feel free to call or text our business line at 971-292-5565 or email us at wellnessbudspodcast@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, questions, if you want to share anything about your personal journey with food, water, protein, sugar, or if you want to share your peaks and valleys of your week, we would love to hear from you. We look forward to hearing from you, and I am just so thankful for everyone who is listening. We appreciate your support. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review, donate, subscribe, share with a friend or family member. Join our fan club over at Patreon, where you will hear us share our peaks and valleys every week. You'll have early access to episodes, along with some additional content that will be coming very soon. We also are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at Wellness Buds Podcast. So if you want to follow us, that would be cool as well. Thank you again, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.